Welcome back, Power Platform Junkies. Today we're going to look at how you can use custom prompts inside of Power Automate. So when you're building out your Power Automate flow and you want to bring in the power of GPT in one of your flows. So this idea is looking at how you can be able to classify your text. So in this case, you're trying to use AI to figure out who to send an email to. So for an example, if a request comes in and it's vague and it's talking about like specific things, or you're trying to get the user's intent, however, you don't know which department to send to if you have like multiple departments in your institution or your company and you don't know who to send the email to, you can use those custom prompts to try and figure out which department to actually send the email to by using an already existing knowledge source that has, let's say, the list of departments, their emails, and the descriptions in terms of their function and what they actually do. So that's what you're going to see during this specific demonstration, and you're going to be using AI Builder. So AI Builder has the ability to allow you to use GPT models, GPT 4.1 for an example, the standard GPT models that you can be able to use with custom prompts. Now, inside of Power Automate, we're going to try and make sure that we build out this routing flow for Contoso Consulting HR. So this can be applied to anything. The first thing that Contoso has is a SharePoint list that has the name of the sub-departments, the email they want to route to, and the description. The description allows Contoso to be able to use the AI so that the AI can know which department to route these things to. So you'll see this much more in action. But another thing that Contoso has is a central HR queries form that they can be able to use and give their employees to submit their requests, which means that most of the time those requests are vague and they don't understand what's going on and they don't know which department to email or sub-department to email. So to create this flow, we're going to go in Power Automate, select the Automated Cloud Flow option, and then we're going to make sure that we provide a name for this flow. And then after that, we're going to choose when a new response is submitted from a Microsoft Forms because we're using a form. So in this case, Contoso Consulting HR can be able to get all of those queries for different reasons and be able to map them to the different sub-departments. So in this case, we have to choose the specific form that we're going to use. And then after that, we have to add an action to get all of the response details. So we choose Microsoft Forms. In this case, you can search for it or you can choose it from the list of options. So we're going to choose get response details, provide the connection name. Then after that, we have to provide the form itself. After that, we have to provide the response ID, which will then allow us to actually get that specific response and all of its details. Next, we need to be able to get all of those HR or sub-departments that Contoso has so that we can be able to get the department name, the email, and also the description. So we would have to make sure that we provide the necessary details here. So the site address in this case, and then after that, we need to provide the list name, which is the sub-departments list in this case, and then we can be able to get all of this information. So what we're only doing is just only getting the list of those sub-departments with their descriptions and emails. The next thing, because we know the output that comes from SharePoint is going to be very chunky, we need to be able to select specific properties that we're interested in, which would be the name and the email and the description, because in this case, we don't want to send everything to the AI, which might end up, making the AI model confused. So we're going to use the select operation, and then we have to provide the array that we're selecting this information from. So in this case, it's the body or value of the get items action, and then we need to map the properties that we're looking for. So we're going to give those properties names. So in this case, we'll say name, and we'll map name to title because title actually stores the name of that sub-department in the SharePoint list. And then the next thing is to actually provide the name for email, and also have to provide the name for description, because those are the three properties or three fields that we're actually interested in that we're going to be able to use and send to the custom prompt that we're going to be using so that we can be able to use the AI to figure out which department or sub-department are we routing everything to. So we're going to choose description. Now, in this case, the output of this is going to be an array. And when you're using custom prompts inside of Power Automate or Power Platform, rather, it does not take input as an array. And it's something that you're going to be seeing a bit later on. It does not take input as an array or a list. So we need to convert this into a text. And to do that, we can add another action where we're going to be using the data operation, which is the compose action that we're going to use. And in this compose action, we need to provide an fx formula, a power fx formula that we're going to use, or a function. And this function is a simple function called join. So we're going to join the output of the previous action, which is the array that we have. The output of the previous action is the array. And then we just put a comma and some quotes, which will then allow us to just convert this into a string that is going to look like an array or a JSON object. So we're going to select add. Now, here comes the meaty part, which is something that we actually need to do, where we actually use the custom prompt. So you will add in your action to add custom prompts, we use AI Builder. So you select AI Builder from the list of options, and you will find that there's different AI models that you can use. There's traditional AI models that AI Builder comes with, and also there's GPT models that you can also use. In our case, we're going to be using generative AI models, and the one that we're going to be using is Run a Prompt, which is one of the GPT models that we're going to use that are available with AI Builder. And then after that, we need to provide the prompt that we're going to be using, because this action runs the prompt that you already have. So there's a list of few prompts that are already available. Some of them are templates that you can use. So you can use the AI classifier if you wanted to classify text, which is already built in. But if you want to do your own custom classifications, you could follow something similar to what we're doing. So we need to create a new custom prompt. To create a new custom prompt, we've clicked on new custom prompt, and we need to provide the instructions of that specific custom prompt. So in this UI, which pops up here, and you can access it somewhere else, even in Power Automate. So in this UI, we have to make sure that we provide the instructions. So I'll paste in a few instructions that I already have, where you're an HR related, you are given an HR related employee request, a list of HR categories, each with their descriptions. Your task is to read the request, identify the most relevant category from the list, and return only the category name as exactly as written. But in this case, I need to switch it up. So even the categories, for an example, are already given. So we're going to see this a bit later on how we provide the categories in the employee request. But I need to switch this up and edit this request or this instruction, because it doesn't necessarily make sense to me. I don't want to return this as text. I actually want to return it as a JSON array. The reason why I want to return this as a JSON array is because I want to make sure that I can be able to pull the email off that sub-department that's been returned or that's been classified, right, from the employee's request. I want to pull that email so I can use it a bit later, right? And I can guide the custom prompt or the GPT model with an example. So I'll provide like a JSON example of how I want the output to look like. So I can provide the name of the sub-department. So I'll put in like payroll for an example, and then put comma. I also want to see the email of that sub-department, which would be the email for payroll in this case, right? And this is the output that I expect out of the custom prompt, which uses the GPT model. So in this case, it's still using GPT 4.1 mini. Now I need to provide the categories. When I select add content, I can choose text input. Right. In this case, as I'm using the text type to provide the categories, you might be wondering, why are we using text for categories? The reason why we're doing that is because, like I mentioned earlier on, these custom prompts do not use arrays as an input. You need to provide it either as a text or an image or a document or a Power FX formula. So in our case, for these categories, we're going to provide them as text, and you will see this and how we're doing it. And you've already seen it on the Power Automate flow on one of the actions where we converted the array into a text, right? And that's where it actually comes into play. And then we also still need to provide the employee request to the custom prompt or to the GPT 4.1 mini model as well. The other things that you can be able to use here is also a Dataverse as knowledge. So you can also use that if you're interested. So we're going to add content for the employee request. It would be text input. What we're trying to do here, we're actually trying to pass in dynamic content or allow us to pass dynamic content to the custom prompt so we can be able to use it a bit later. So for us to test it out, I'm going to provide some sample data for it for the categories, and that's just plain text, but I've structured it in a way that it looks like a list. It has the subcategory, the sub-department name. It has the description of it handles annual leave, sick leave, and all of those things, and also has the email and so forth, right? That's just a generic kind of description of what I can give it. Another thing that I can do is also provide sample data for the request. For an example, in this case, I'm providing it, like for example, my payslip for August does not reflect or does not reflect in this case, or like for example, my overtime, right? And if I close that, we also want to make sure that as I've provided that sample request, it needs to figure out, okay, which sub-department are we looking at? But before we test it out, you can be able to switch from the different GPT models that you can use. You can use the standard GPT 4.1 or the standard GPT 5. It's paid. The premium O3 and the premium GPT 5 as well, which is also paid. Another thing that you can do is bring in custom AI models through Azure AI Foundry, right? If you are evaluating somewhere else with using AI Foundry, you can bring it into Power Automate on the custom prompt. So once I've tested this, you can be able to see that we have, right, the output which says payroll and provides the email, which is which matches the request that I've provided it, right, and also matches what's in the category list. However, as you are looking at it, and I'm pretty sure as you're watching, you can see that the output's not really what I want. It's not going to work the way that I want it. So I need to switch there, which you can be able to do. You switch the output from text to JSON, and now I can be able to have like a proper response or a proper output that I can be able to use because I want to use that email, right? I want to use email, and if I want to use the name, I can also want to get it out of this, the output for the custom prompt. Then I name it out, and then after that, what we can be able to do is to just click on save because now it's ready for us to use in our Power Automate flow. So the other things with this that you need to consider is you can do it with other scenarios. You don't have to do it for this scenario, right? You can see that the prompt is there and we need to provide those two inputs. So let's start with employee request. We can use the dynamic content from the form that we're using as a trigger for this Power Automate flow, which is what challenge are you facing? The answer that's coming from the form. We provide that as the dynamic content from the form. You can be able to see that with the employees describing their problem. And then the next thing that we need to do is to then provide the categories, right? And you remember they are text, right? The dynamic content is set as text. So the only thing that we need to do is to provide the output of compose because again, we converted it back into a text. Now, the last thing that we just want to do is to just send an email. And after we have figured out which department we want to send, which department is responsible for the query, we can send an email to them by using the email that we got from the custom prompt. And you can be able to see that in the outputs of the dynamic content, we can use email now as an option or as a property that we can be able to use so that we can email the right sub-department about the query from from the employee. And again, you can use this for different things. And I need to provide the subject, for example, it's like your standard email. So action required, maybe I want to call out to the department or the sub-department by name, say action required by that department's name. And then I'll say request, and then I need to specify body. In my case, I already have a working body, so I'm just going to copy and paste in the one that I already have. And I just need to replace the stuff that I want to. So that's just the standard template that I need. So for category name, we provide the name from the output of the custom prompt. Employee request is coming from, you guessed it, from the form, because the employee is the one that actually provided the information using the form, and we have the form as a trigger in our Power Automate flow. And then again, when we say category assigned, we'll provide the category name again, which will be one of those categories, which is using the output that we get there. Now, it's time to actually see if this actually works. So if you see that warning, never mind it. It's because you're using the get items in this case, which requires a filter. Now let's actually capture something, right? So I'm just, as the flow is saving, I'm just going to put in my name, my email, and then I'll provide whatever challenge that I may be possibly actually facing in this case. So like for an example, something about me not getting paid this month. And we want to see, as we provide that, will it actually send the email with my query to payroll? Because from what I remember from the SharePoint list, it actually has payroll, which takes care of everything that has to do with salaries for this month and all of those things. So I'm just asking that, what's going on, right? The flow has been saved. And again, I'm having that warning about not filtering the get items, right? You need to filter the get items sometimes. So if I hit submit and I go back to Power Automate so that we can be able to see if it succeeded or not. I like doing this all the time. So just close that pop-up, and it succeeded. So I need to just bring in my screen with the email that actually just came in right now. And I provide, and you can see that it says, Dear Payroll Team. So payroll was actually identified from my query because I have not gotten my salary this month, and it's payroll that is responsible for those things. And that's what we provided in those lists. And let's actually try and see the flow and see how it actually works like. And we're just going to look at a preview. So when a request is submitted, let's look at the select. The select allows us to actually select those specific properties, the name, the email, and the description of the existing departments. And then the other thing that we can look at is the compose and look at the output for that. It's actually a JSON object, but it's actually a string. So it's a JSON object converted into a string, right? So, and we then provide it as input to running our prompt. So basically, that's how you actually use this action inside of Power Automate, and you're able to do all kinds of things. Another thing that I want to show you is the AI Hub inside of the Power Platform. So if you don't want to go down the route that I've done in this video, right, or in this demo, you can be able to just make sure that you go to AI Hub. You can see all of the different options that are available. And you can also select prompts in this case. And when you select prompts, you'll see again those popular templates that are available here that you can be able to use, like respond to a complaint, identify text tags, and all of those things. But in our case, we've used the build your own prompt, which is a custom prompt that you can then be able to use in your Power Automate flow and so forth. But yeah, that's basically the video. Make sure to hit subscribe and make sure that you like the video because it actually helps the Power Platform Junkies community to continue to grow and provide all of this content again and again.